How's it going, David from Comic Book Investments? So, Trump won. So, what does that mean for comic books? Now, I made a video predicting what would happen. I was 100% right. I even narrowed it down to the exact amount of votes they would get in each state, or the states that mattered. I did it on another channel. I just threw it up there because I didn't want to subject you guys to that who don't care about that stuff. But I'm going to talk about what it pertains to comic books. I was 100% right. You can look at that other video. I did a follow-up, so I'm not going to rant about that kind of stuff on this channel. So what does that mean for going forward for comic books now that it's a Trump victory? Now, there's going to be people out there that are upset, and I get it. Your team lost, your person lost. You think it's the end of the world. It's not. Relax. Just relax, please. Okay, it's not end of the world. I did a whole video explaining everything. You can just watch that. Unless you're going to get mad, you don't need to watch it. So just relax. Just realize that you can take the next 4 years one of two ways. You can accept reality and just realize it's going to be okay, or you can just be angry for the next 4 years. So that aside, how is this going to affect comic books? How is all this? Well, I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff in this thing. So just be prepared. So interest rates. Interest rates were already trending down. So interest rates are the Fed rates, and that will determine how expensive it is or cheap it is for companies to borrow money. And I explained before that if you have low interest rates, companies will borrow more money because it's cheap for them to take risks to expand, to maybe invest in a new company, a startup, things like that. And some of the startups we got in 2021 were like Rowley and Otis and Alt and whatever their names are, where they would buy expensive collectibles and then you could buy shares of them. I think most of this company is gone. But those are some of the companies that propped up, and so they propped up the comic book business. And, the graph just went comic boom, because we had low rates. So rates were already coming down. The Fed was already lowering it. So whether Trump got in office or Harris got in office, they were already going to go down. Now, I do think that Trump will put a little pressure on the Fed to speed them up because low rates can make it cheaper for people to borrow and for people to grow and expand. So like somewhere like Google will expand their business. They hire a bunch of people. Now you have all these jobs that are like 200,000-300,000 a year. Those people, maybe they buy a motorcycle with their extra income. Maybe they buy a comic book with their extra income. Just like my older brother did. He was making 300,000 a year at some job, tech job, and he was buying comic books. So, and then he lost his job because everything crashed, and then he had to sell all his comic books. So typical of the comic boom and the comic crash. So that's going to happen. I think Trump will push the Fed to push the rates down faster and more. So that will be the only difference there. So I think we're going to have more jobs, more companies investing into their jobs, borrowing money to invest in different things. So that will be a positive note. Overall, if I can sum it up, it's going to be positive for comic books. And now I'll just dive into each reason why. Now, does that say that all of a sudden that Eternals #1 that you bought for $4,000 at a 98 at its peak, and now it's worth like $150, that's going to go up to $4,000? No. No. We'll go up to 175, maybe. Each individual comic book is individual, right? So just as a market as a whole, it's going to go up. Market as a whole. And I already predicted this a long time ago before I even knew who the president was going to be. And I don't think it matters that much. It's just going to slightly be different. So we're going to, if you take the top 10 of each age, like bronze, gold, silver, and put them at the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year, like tally them up, you're going to see an increase. That's what I'm talking about. Individual books are going to be different. You might have one book go up 20% in a year. You might have another book go down 10% in a year. But overall, it's going to see an increase the comic book market as a whole. Why? Because you're going to have people that are just going to have extra income to buy the things that they love. Now, whether that's a comic book or not, that's up to the individual person, but that's what will happen. One thing that Trump's going to do, and I'm positively optimistic, and I'm not going to sit here and claim like I know everything. And I don't want people in the comments to sit there and claim like they know everything, because before you comment something that you're totally wrong, all this kind of stuff, I want you to check your bias. And by me checking your bias is like, did you vote for Harris? If you voted for Harris, or maybe you sat this out and did not vote for Trump, or maybe you did vote for Trump. But if you voted for Harris and then you sit and tell me how I'm wrong, maybe you have a bias. And I'll tell you this, I have never voted for a person ever. I'm a true independent. This was literally the first time I've ever voted for a person. I only vote for local politics. That's what I will ever vote for. So this is the first time I ever voted. I voted for Trump. I'm just going to be honest right there. First time. I didn't vote for Trump the first, second time. I'm true independent. The reason why, there's a lot of reasons, mostly Elon Musk. So there you go. I'm a huge Elon Musk fan. And the person I liked, who was my favorite, was Robert Kennedy. So Robert Kennedy happened to be on the Trump team with Elon Musk. How could I not vote for him? Those are that's my ideal right there. And the fact is that Trump said that he's going to give Robert Kennedy free reign to make things healthy. And if he can make things 1% better, healthier for America, I'm on board. That is enough for me. That is enough for me. So anyways, I'm just going to tell you my bias, my thing. So going into this, So Trump wants to do tariffs. Now, a lot of people will talk about tariffs. And they're like, oh, no, it'll make things expensive. You know who says that? The left. The left says, now, the way tariffs work is you put taxes on other things. So if you're getting something from China or wherever, India or something like that, they'll put a 10, 20, 30, 50, I don't know, whatever taxes on a specific good. That raises the price here. And so you're like, oh my gosh, if you tax all these companies and all these other foreign entities, it's going to raise the prices here. He wants to bring that manufacturing to here. So you wouldn't have a tax because the work would be here. So if you build that, so if China builds that factory here or Taiwan or wherever it is, India, Mexico, and they build that factory here, there is no tariff. All that creates is more jobs for people here, which means more people have more income. And people are like, well, it's just going to make things more expensive. If things are built here, minimum wage in China is around $4 an hour. It used to be way cheaper, but it's gone up massively. It's around $4 an hour. You know what the minimum wage here is? What is it like? Federally, it's like $7.50, $7.25, something like that, maybe $8, somewhere around there. So it's like double, almost double. They were going to start shifting a lot of stuff to Mexico because Mexico is actually cheaper minimum wage. Their minimum wage is like $3 an hour. And so a lot of people are moving to Mexico. And Trump even said they're going to have this huge auto manufacturer in Mexico. But since people thought he's going to become office, they shut it down. Billions of dollars they're going to spend. So he wants those companies to come here. And now people are going to think, oh man, it's going to make cars expensive. Whatever you build here is expensive. You do realize that Germany that creates, Volkswagen cars and BMWs. BMWs are a little more expensive, but Mercedes and all that kind of stuff, they're higher end. But like a Volkswagen, their minimum wage is $12 an hour, more than it is here. Yet people seem to be able to afford Volkswagens, the Jettas, the Beetles, I don't know what lines they have, BMWs, all that kind of stuff, just fine. Also, we have an American-made car company here already, Tesla. It's the most American-made car company, more than Ford, more than GM. Most of the stuff comes from here, it is made here. So, but everyone can, well, not everyone, but people can't afford those just fine. They're just as whatever inexpensive as its counterpart in, with Ford or whatever. So logic doesn't really add up because there's other things and they have to ship those cars over here. So it won't happen. People are like, oh, well, what about cell phones, things like that. So you have to look at the labor cost itself and how much is the labor cost. An iPhone that you sell for $1,000 is about $500 to make. Half of it's materials and half of it is labor costs and shipping. So your labor costs will go up. And people are like, oh, we're going to have like a $2,000 phone. No, it'll probably go from $1,000, maybe $1,200, maybe. But then also you have to factor in, what if they build a factory and it's more top of the line? Because over there, labor is a lot cheaper, but here they'll have more robots. So there you go. So maybe robots take over the place with make it a little bit cheaper. That could be a very good possibility. But in any case, you bring all those jobs over here, or at least most of the jobs over here. We're still going to have stuff built in other countries, but just threatening other countries with tariffs to the point where those companies are like, it's more cost effective to us build our plant in America, gives us more jobs. So therefore, with more jobs, people have more expendable income, which they will spend on whatever they love, and it could be comic books. So that will increase there. Let me see the other stuff I want to talk about that will be beneficial for comics. Oh, so a lot of complaints that I've seen in the comments, and there's people in general, and there's a lot of channels talking about, is just woke and DEI stuff. That was already on its way out. That peaked around 2020 to 2022. And just because it peaked doesn't mean it's dead in 2023. It's just going down. It's going to go down much faster. There's been lots of companies coming forward saying they're ending their DEI program, diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're ending it. This was before Trump won, right? Months ago. A lot of companies coming forward saying they're ending it, getting rid of it, which is great for if you don't like that stuff. If Harris would have won, it would have just only extended it longer. It would have extended it longer. So that stuff's going to die. And what I've talked about before is a lot of people, it's like, oh, we should have minorities and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, if they're good enough. It's plain and simple. If they're good enough. And the reason why, like a lot of these movies that you watch, like these Marvel movies, are like, oh, it's so terrible, it's so bad, all this kind of stuff, is what they do is like the Marvels. They wanted their little badge of honor that said, we hired the youngest minority female director of all time. It was like a 30-something-year-old female black director who worked on like 2 other like indie projects before that, and they gave her the job of a $200 million movie, and she failed. I wonder why. Number one, she doesn't have the experience, and they just wanted that badge of honor. They thought like, oh, we'll be able to guide her. But the problem is the people that are guiding her is this a bunch of more DEI hires, and so they don't know what they're doing. I mean, think about Blade. Why didn't Blade ever get made? Is because the original script, they wanted to have Blade as a background character, and it was all about his daughter. The movie's called Blade. It's not daughter of Blade, son of Blade, or whatever you want to call it, Blade Jr. It's Blade. And it never worked. And when Mahershala Ali was like, no, I'm the main character. Don't put me in the background. So, yeah, stuff like that. Is this stuff still going to happen? Of course. But it's going to be way less. There's going to be people that aren't hired as much based on whatever their identity, their race, their gender, who cares. And they're going to be more hired on their merit. So that means, hey, I don't care what you look like, as long as you're a good writer, as long as you're a good artist, as long as you're a good actor, whatever it is. And they're going to be hired on that, which then translates to whatever entertainment you read or watch, whether it's comic book, watch a comic book movie, things like that. It's going to be better because you're hiring the best that you can find, as opposed to just checking a box. And I mean, Kamala Harris was literally a box checked. Joe Biden said, I don't know who I'm going to pick, but it's going to be a black woman. And then she lost. And people wonder why. Because she wasn't the best. It wasn't because she was a woman. It wasn't because she was black. Because she wasn't the best. And it's pretty clear she was not the best. I mean, they just put it there. But nonetheless, I think, so if you don't like that stuff, that's going to be gone much, much faster under Trump. If you do like that stuff, it's just going to be gone. So like, I don't know what to tell you. So it's going to be gone. So if your entertainment, as far as that, it should start getting better. That's not going to save the comic or movie industry at all. You still have to have good stories and, things that people really want to see. As in terms of like comic book prices, I mean, AI is still coming. I did a whole video on AI is coming around the corner. So Trump is not going to save the comic industry from AI. It's not going to save the movie industry from AI. That's still coming. It's not going to slow it down at all. In fact, maybe it speeds it up a little bit. I don't know. So there's that. But in terms of like dollar amounts, people are going to have more money in their pocket. If you have assets, like hard assets, like a house, stocks, anything like that, that's all going to go up. And the markets are through the roof right now. Bitcoin, all-time high. Tesla approaching like a 2-year high. So, hey, it's great for people that have hard assets. I've made many videos about getting hard assets. Those are going to go through the roof. They're going to go up. And so if you have a hard asset like that, so maybe you have a house or a rental or something like that, you sell it, you have all this extra income. Maybe you refi because the rates are lower. You take all that cash out, you buy comic books. By the way, we're giving this out for free at our website, collectorscomics.com. So that will be all fine and dandy. From people that have that stuff, I've always encouraged people to get that. Now, if you are someone who's looking to buy a house, but you just can't afford it, I will tell you this. I 100% believe that under a Trump administration, that you will have a better opportunity to afford a home than you would if it was Harris. Because one of the things that they talked about that they want to tackle, which is true, is he talked about we need to get energy cheaper. And he talked about houses specifically. He's like, you have all these building supplies. If you get energy down, gasoline, whatever, oil, it makes it cheaper to get those supplies. Also, Elon wants to take a big old axe through regulation. One of the reasons why houses are so expensive is because of regulation. My brother wanted to do a room addition. A room addition. It took him 2 years to do this addition to his house. And what did he say? 3 or 6 months of it was building it. The rest of it was regulations. He has like a curb, and he had to get out a special person to come to see if a heavy truck could, like, a construction truck could drive on the city curb. And he's like, but this house was already built. Like, at some point, a heavy truck did come up to do it. It's like, no, that took him 2 weeks. He had to get plans written up. He had to submit those plans. Then he had to wait for that person to look at the plans. Then the person had to give him a revision. And then he had to, like, all this kind of 2 weeks just to do that one tiny thing, just to see if a truck could drive on the curb, which, of course, they could. It's like, whose job is that? Elon needs to slash that thing. So cutting, and that costs him money. He has to pay for all these things. So builders have to pay for all. They put in that cost. So, and also another thing, like, especially here, builders are only allowed to build a certain number of new homes. And homes are literally supply and demand. If you build a bunch more homes, then houses are cheaper. So they are only allowed to build a certain number of new homes. That's a regulation thing. You cut those regulations down, you can build more homes. The homes are cheaper to build. To get the material costs, it's cheaper to build. There you go. It's good. Homes will be cheaper. They're going to build more homes, which will drive down the price of a home. So if you don't have a home, it will be vastly, vastly easier. That's what Kamala Harris is like. I'm just going to give people money to get a first-time home, and only certain people. But that doesn't help anything. That just drives up the price, because now you have more people that have money to compete for the same home. You only have one home. All of a sudden, you just brought in 5 new buyers that could possibly buy that home, because now, like, hey, I get a free down payment. They're like, well, the price just went up because you have to bid it against each other. No, you want to be able to make homes cheaper to build so you can build more. Supply and demand. People just don't get that. They just don't understand it. So yeah. So if you want a hard asset like something like that, it's going to be cheaper for you to get. That's not really about comic books, but it's more about financial stuff. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything. Overall, I would say be optimistic. If you are very pessimistic, just check your bias and realize maybe you need to do a whole reset on yourself and your mental state, and realize that, over half the country voted for this guy. He won pretty much a landslide. I think it's up to like 320 something votes. And maybe you have to just reset your thinking on this person. And most of your thinking is probably stuff that you heard from the news or other people. Try to erase all that. That's what I did. I literally did. In 2016, I did not like the guy because of all the things that the news says that he is. And then as time went on, I realized, maybe he isn't that person. And, people are promised return to normalcy with Biden. Farthest from the truth. In fact, they put it in a senile person. So even if he's 1% decline in mental capacity, Biden, I'm sorry. No, you can't have that person as president. Nuclear codes, talking to leaders, all that kind of stuff. No, I'm sorry. That's a hard line. Sorry. He doesn't have the mental capacity. He should have been gone a long time ago. But they hid that. They gaslit the entire country. So just try to do a reset on your brain and start fresh. Start by watching the Joe Rogan Trump interview and go in with a complete open mind, fresh mind, that you don't even know this person. And then ask yourself, is this that person that the media said he is? He's not. He's not that person. And then go in, and I'm just trying to help you, the people that are really already writing me a mean comment and already unsubscribing from this channel. I'm just asking you, is go in a fresh mind and watch the person. Yeah, he has character flaws. He does. He is not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one's perfect. Imagine if the entire country and the world put a spotlight on you. What would they find out about you? What would they all of a sudden clip out of context and put all over everywhere? Yeah, exactly. trust me, they don't want to do that to me. That'd be terrible. And they probably don't want to do to you. It'd be terrible. They probably uncover a ton of skeletons in your closet. And don't go around acting like you're better than everyone else, because there's probably a lot of skeletons and probably a lot of things you say that maybe you're taking out of context or you didn't really mean, and they go through your entire life's history. Entire like, well, see here, Mr. Johnson, when you were 5 years old, you said this. And then it's all over everywhere. And it's like, well, I didn't really mean that, and you don't understand the context. You know, I was in a fight with my mom, and yeah. So, yeah, I would just do a reset, watch the Joe Rogan interview, watch the J.D. Vance Rogan interview, and you realize that it's like they're not what you think they are, and just go in there, and then the next 4 years will be much, much better mentally. Financially, you're going to do much, much better. I wholeheartedly agree to that and stand by that. I was right 100% on this, and I think I'm right 100% on this prediction as well. You can watch my previous prediction and see that I was to the T, to the number of each votes they got, each candidate got in each state, to the T. I was right, to the T. And I'm going to globe out of that forever. So this prediction, I'm predicting, is going to be right again. I'm not saying that comic books are going to go to the moon like in 2020, 2021. They're not going to do that. I'm sorry that you bought that $4,000 Eternals #1 and a 9.8. I'm sorry, but that's not going back up. But in general, things are going to go back. They're going to go back comic levels like 2018 to 2019, like those levels where you're getting anywhere from a 2 to 10% gain a year. All it means is comics are not going to drop anymore. Now, that's not going to all of a sudden start as soon as he steps in the office. All of a sudden, this is going to happen. It comes down to they're going to have to pass laws. They're going to have to get things going. It's going to take a while to get things going. But more likely than not, it will start slowly ramping up. I mean, people are reacting very strongly financially in the markets for that he won. I mean, everything's just gangbusters right now, and it's going to flourish. It's going to. You might not see it. You might not believe it. You might find reasons why. You might find, oh, it's not because of him. It's because of this over here, all that stuff. It's the same people that say, oh, Elon didn't code the rockets that landed it. No, he was the CEO. Yeah, I'm sure he does some coding, but he's not coding the AI. He's not building every ratchet on the Tesla. He's not up there like changing the rocket schematics. He hires people around him. He's the CEO. He's the one that makes the ideas in his mind and goes, let's go this way. As a CEO, me included, I'm not anything close to him. Every day you have a million different paths you can choose. It's choosing the right one over and over and over every day, every week, every month, every year. Choosing the right path. He had the choice of going LiDAR, which is like sensors that are very expensive for his Teslas, or using cameras, which are very cheap. But the difference, LiDAR is so much better than cameras. But he made a prediction, and he stood by that prediction. He's like, they're going to be too expensive. Camera vision is the way to go. And that was like, I don't know, 2012. Turns out, took a decade. He was right. All those people that chose LiDAR, switching over to cameras. So they wasted a decade. Now he's much further along when it comes to driverless cars. It's making those decisions. Like Steve Jobs, he didn't make the computers. He didn't program the computers. He was the visionary that put it on path. So that's what you have to think about. Have a great day. It'll be okay.